Hello everyone and welcome back to the Book of Knowledge. Today we're going to talk a little bit about the Tree of Life and the Tree of Knowledge. Primarily we're going to talk about ancient Egypt today, the Egyptian god Osiris. We're going to talk about the origins and the meaning behind the letter K, which is really interesting. We're going to talk a little bit about tarot cards. We'll get into some different things. I'm going to read a few sections. I'm just going to talk and babble for part of this. But it should be interesting. It should be fun. But before we get started, go ahead and hit the subscribe button if you're not subscribed. Hit the like button. Share this video. Comment down below. Leave me your questions, comments, things you want to hear about. And let's go ahead and get started. So, the first section I'm going to read is the roots and stems of the Tree of Life and Knowledge. The ancient Druids used to worship the trees as sacred. They would hold religious ceremonies in sacred groves and forests. The Druids believed that the trees contain the spirit of nature. Many ideas that we have today about truth and knowledge stem from the tree worship of the ancient Druids. In fact, the word truth comes from the tree of the Druids. The Tree of Life and the Tree of Knowledge are recognized in nearly all religions as far back as we know. However, the Tree of Life and the Tree of Knowledge are the same tree. The symbol of the tree expresses the duality of life and death, knowledge and ignorance, and truth and lies. Life branches outward, and the Tree of Life is about reproduction, multiplication, and growth. It is the tree itself that moves outward from the earth. The names of the parts of the tree are also words used to express these ideas. To branch out means to move away from or to further separate. A leaf grows on a branch, and many leaves are called leaves. Leaving is what a leaf does when it falls from the tree. It leaves or goes away. Finally, the leaf can be found lying on the ground. The main purpose for all life forms in general is to reproduce itself. A tree will produce fruit and spread its seed. The fruit from the Tree of Life are offspring. That is why we say, be fruitful and multiply. We live our lives on the surface of the earth, next to the tree, under the light of the sun and the moon. The dead are placed in a trunk beneath the surface of the earth, next to the roots, in darkness, away from the light of the sun and the moon. Knowledge is about finding and retaining truth. It is about knowing information before it starts to grow or branch out. If you have a truth, anything added to that truth is a distortion of the truth. The Tree of Knowledge is about getting to the root of something. The roots stand under the tree, so that is where you find the understanding. Or finding the roots is how you get to the bottom of it. If you find a leaf lying on the ground, you can examine its lies and see where they stem from, or how they have branched off from the truth. You can trace these stems and branches backwards using the logs of logic and seeing where the logs have been split by the branches. If you use logic following the stems and branches, you can eventually get to the root and find the truth. The fruit from the Tree of Knowledge are mushrooms, which were eaten by shaman, religious leaders, clairvoyants, and soothsayers throughout all of history. In fact, mushrooms and other forms of psychedelics were most likely used in the forming of most ancient stories, myths, and legends. Another thing to add here is that the family tree also uses these same double meanings of words as well. The son will grow a new branch on the tree, but a daughter will leave the family to help grow another tree. Now, the reason that I started this video with the Tree of Life and the Tree of Knowledge is because I'm looking back at the videos I've put out, and I noticed that people really like to watch the videos about God and about Noah and the characters that they know and recognize, and they learn the stories, and now they can look at it again and see what it really means. But what's far more important is going back further than that and seeing how those stories are created with the intentions of the letters and the words, and to see the magic happening. Like the video that I did on L and V, which is Mars and Venus. What I didn't really touch on there is L and F is also Mars and Venus, because F is Freya or Frigg, which is also Venus. So you have a word like love that is the L and the V. It's Mars and Venus coming together, the goddess and the god of love. And they create existence because the man and the woman. Now, if you use the F, you have the L and the F that comes together and creates life, which is the man and the woman coming together to create existence. So the V is also the F, and they both represent the planet Venus and the goddess of love and the characters that portray Venus. Just like L is Mars and Ares and Tyr and all of the gods of war that are portrayals of Mars. So the significance of the tree of life and knowledge and what that means and represents, when you're shown, okay, here's this story, say, about Samson and Delilah, and when you're shown the true meanings of what that story is truly about, you're looking in the branches of the tree, because you're seeing the final end result of what has branched out from the roots. And you're crawling around in the branches, finding branches that look the same, and you can compare them and say, this one looks like that one. But to really understand this, you got to get out of the branches and go down to the roots. And the roots is what it all starts from. So the learning the true meanings of the individual letters that are used to spell the words is far more important than understanding the meaning of the end story that has grown from these roots through these branches and out to the people. Because by knowing the roots, you can understand everything, not just that story. So knowing the meaning of a letter, or putting letters together to know the meaning of a word, is far more important than just being able to know what a story means at the end of the day, because you can know the true meaning of all stories by learning the roots of the letters. Okay, so that's what I wanted to say. If you see videos like L is for Mars, V is for Venus, you're going to get more understanding out of that video than the truth about God. It's about time. So, but I get it. It's a lot more fun to just learn the meaning of a story you've always known, or the meanings and roots of a character that you've always known. And I totally get that, and that's important too. But the purpose of this book is to teach you the language so you can learn to decode everything. So you don't need me to make these videos. You can read it. So with that in mind, let's continue on. A lot of this video is going to be about Egypt, so that should be fun. Right now we're going to talk about the letter K, the King's Army, and the legend of the Black Knight. The origins of the letter K is one of the most glaring examples of the experts and scholars being way off in the weeds, completely clueless to what is going on. The only piece of the history of the letter K that they have right is that the K is related to the Semitic kaf or kaf. As stated in the section about the letter C, the kaf did not mean hand, but it referred to the palm of the hand and how it is shaped like a bowl that you could put things in or carry them. The ancient Egyptians believed that when you were born, a spark of light that was your life force entered your body and would leave you when you died. The word for this life force was Ka. The purpose of mummification was to preserve the body, or the Ba, in the hopes that one day their Ka would return and they could live again. The Ka that gave life to the Ba was a spark of light from Ra. Ra was the sun god who died every night and resurrected the next day. When Ra would die, his Ka would leave him and travel up to the stars. There the Ka of Ra would watch over and protect Ra's kingdom until the morning, when the Ka of Ra would return so Ra could rise again. The constellation of Orion throughout the ancient world was symbolic of the sun god in the nighttime sky. This will be explained in great detail later. Orion was the Ka of Ra that would travel overhead at night protecting the kingdom until he set in the west, appearing to go into the ground. This is the roots of the Semitic kaf, meaning palm of the hand. The Ka of Ra would protect Egypt by putting the kingdom into the palm of his hand, as if to put it into a container or a cup. You could say that when Ra was dead, the kingdom was in the hands of the Ka of Ra. This is also the meaning of the tarot card, the Ace of Cups. It is the cup in the palm of your hand that protects you, or Orion. Ancient kings and pharaohs claimed to be manifestations of the sun god. In Egypt, the names of the pharaohs were written inside of a cartouche. A cartouche was a symbol that surrounded the name of the king in order to protect the pharaoh's name. The bottom or the side of the cartouche resembles the letter K because the letter K is a pictograph of the constellation Orion, or the Ka of the sun that protects the king or the pharaoh. This is also the roots of the Semitic kaf or kaf because the kaf is the Ka of the pharaoh, protects the pharaoh in the palm of his hand, or the cartouche. What really protects the king is his army. The letter K represents the force of the king's army. It is the advancing soldier. When you combine the letter K and the letter I, you get the soul or the intentions of the king. The word king can be read as Ki, meaning the soul of the king, followed by N, meaning something new, and G, meaning God. So just as an ancient king claimed to be the gods themselves, the word king means that the soul of the king is the new god. When the king's soldiers would enter a village, they could go in with the intentions of Mars, or the god of war, represented by the letter L, and kill people. They could go in with the intentions of Saturn, or the deviant snake of sexuality, represented by the letter S, and kiss people, which is a very nice way to say rape and steal the women. If the villagers were lucky, the king's soldiers would be kind, meaning the force of the king would cause N, in this case meaning no, and D, meaning decline or destruction. So the soldiers of the king would either kill you, kiss you, or be kind. The constellation Orion has always been seen as a hunter or a warrior, protector of a kingdom. He was the king's most powerful soldier. He was the Black Knight of the Black Knight. Throughout history, the stories of Orion revolve around him killing bulls, monsters, demons, or dragons. The legend of the Black Knight from the Middle Ages are just retellings of more ancient stories from antiquity. The stories of the constellation Orion defeating unbeatable characters represented by the constellation Taurus. The letter K in regards to spelling can mean the king, the military force of the king, the advancing soldier, or the protector. Now with all that in mind, now we can talk about the ancient Egyptian god Osiris, the god of the afterlife. Now I'm not going to read this from the book, just kind of talk about this. So the sun god was Ra, and Ra would die at night, and the Ka of Ra would go up to the stars, and that was Orion and Sirius. And Orion and Sirius would float across the sky and set in the west. And the next morning, Ra would rise again. So, Osiris is the Ka of Ra, or the god of the afterlife. So when Ra, the sun god, dies, then he becomes the god of the afterlife, Osiris. And you can see Osiris in Egyptian easily turns into Orion and Sirius to the Greeks, just through the telephone game, just through mispronouncing names. Osiris becomes Osiren, becomes Horizon, becomes Orion, and Osiris becomes Sirius. It's throughout time and through people retelling the stories in different areas, the names just change, and that's part of what this book is all about. And this is how religions turn into other religions. This is how the telephone game works. This is basically what this is. Osiris becomes Orion and Sirius, and all these characters that are based on Orion are hunters, protectors, and warriors. And this is because Orion is always battling Taurus. Now, again, looking at Osiris, the story of Osiris, he's chopped into pieces by his brother Set, and all of his body parts are scattered all over the world and buried, 14 pieces. And Isis has to go around and collect all those 14 pieces and reassemble Osiris. And the reason for this myth is because Osiris, or Orion, flies across the sky in the winter. But in the summer, it doesn't come out at all. So all these gods are always going to the underworld, or they're chopped into pieces and thrown, scattered all over the world, or always something will happen to them. They'll have to go on some journey. That's because for half of the year they don't appear in the sky. Because we're revolving around the sun, we're looking at different stars throughout the year. So eventually, Isis will find all of the body parts and put Osiris back together, and then Osiris is back, because it's winter again. Now, Isis is the moon, Osiris is Orion, or the Ka of the sun god, or the soul of the sun. So these are night characters who then give birth to Horus, the next sun god. So again, it's about this constant time cycles. It's about time. The yearly cycle, the daily cycle, the cycle of the ages, the seasons. All of these ancient religions are about the passing of time and why the sky is different throughout the year, and then it comes back and repeats itself again. So I hope this kind of made some sense about Osiris and Orion and Sirius, and I hope going over the letter K really helps you to understand the value of knowing the letters and how these letters represent ancient gods and the stories of the ancient gods, and how those letters turn into meanings, and then the words that come out of spelling with those letters are relevant to these ancient gods and stories. So I think that's going to wrap it up for this video. I'm already at like 21 minutes, so it's longer than I wanted it to be. So please subscribe to this channel if you learned anything, or if you find this interesting. Please subscribe. Share this video with friends. Hit the like button. Hit the bell so you get notifications. Leave your comments and questions below. If you want me to explain a symbol or a myth or something, put that in the comments and I'll consider making a video on it. And I guess that's it for this video. So another one down, another one coming. So that's what it is.